advertise. You also mentioned that there are different types of people who could advertise, like a business, like an individual client. So are there any individual strategies that make sense as a rule for different types of customers, or is it a case by case? You have to look at the individual business, you have to look at the individual person.
That is the crux of all marketing, and I'm going to do two things here. One is we always say it all depends, at which I get
Very
tired
helpful
of
answer.
very helpful answer, because you get that when it's what's the best way to do this? Well, it all depends. But let me take a step back here really quick, because I consider something like emails, that's not a strategy. That's a tool. That's a tactic. Now because most people think of, how do I send an email to get a sale? That's a tactic. That's a tool. Now, if you go, how do I use email in general to attract clients, to nurture clients, to convert? Now you're getting into a strategy. So that's kind of one of the big differences. So let me kind of bring it back down to, you had mentioned an individual client. I'm not going to pick a certain industry, but let's just say a small business. As far as what's going to work for them, it really depends on how much time. Let's say they're doing it on their own, they don't have an agency. How much time do you have? How much time do you have to dedicate? Because I think a lot of people and a lot of small companies, they want to find, okay, what's the tool that I can buy and it'll just do the work for me? Well, it's only as good. It's like saying, if I buy a car, I'm just going to end up at work. Like, it doesn't work that way. Like, you have to put some effort into it to make the machine run. So if you're going to be doing, say you decide I want to try to do email marketing. Okay. Do you have time to write the emails? Do you have time to design the emails? Do you have the time to respond to people who are responding to you? Do you have all of these things you have to think about, which are really going to depend on the type of business. If you have a small business who's a retail store, well, maybe that's not going to be the best thing for them. Just a little mom and pop retail shop. Maybe just sending emails isn't the best thing for them, because depending on what you're selling, people need to see that. So maybe better is to do Facebook advertising in just your little local, area there, which again is a tool, but there could be a strategy behind it. So you need to make sure you have photos. You need to make sure you can take some video, that you can write some ad copy, that you know how to target. And these are the things that make people's eyes just glaze over, because all of a sudden it went from simple, I just advertise on Facebook, to, wait, I have to know how to target, and I have to know I don't know how to do all that. So as far as what's going to work for each, there is a positive side of this. Whatever's going to work for each individual client, what I would say, start where you spend your time. So in other words, if you're a small business owner and you spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and Facebook just on your own, well, then you probably know how those ecosystems work. So I would start there. And if you're talking to other people in your industry or clients on those platforms, well, you know that they're there. So then and it's going to be a lot easier for you to get into, marketing or engaging in those areas, because you're already familiar with it and you like it. It's much easier to stay involved and, for all intents and purposes, try to push your product in places that you're already familiar with and you enjoy being. So I don't know if that answers your question. So it really depends on where you have the time and energy to spend, and where you already spend your time. Because you can always add more tactics and strategies, but I would, start with what you're best at.
Maybe like the place to go from here, because I think you've mentioned a lot of really, really